Hello, everybody. Can we do anything to prevent outsourcing? Outsourcing, as we know, is probably the most prevalent instance or entity of our time. In nearly any industry, we've seen that as soon as the product is designed, often in the United States, it's moved overseas. And that money doesn't come from the design for a country, it comes from its production. Because usually only one or two people, maybe a handful of people, design a product, and they reap millions of rewards. But it's the production and manufacturing of that product that creates millions of jobs. So it's the manufacturing of products and services where the great benefit to a country rise. For that reason, we've seen that many of these manufactured products and services are going overseas because they want to take advantage of lower wage costs. And as a result, we often seem powerless to stop it. We actually aren't. There's four things that a country can do, its people can do, its employees can do to prevent, maybe just slow down the trend towards outsourcing. First is most obvious. They have to bring down production costs. Production costs have to at least be in line or what I'll say close to other countries. Most organizations would stay in the United States if the difference between production costs are not high. When they get higher, they're going to move. If it's 5 or 7 or even 10%, maybe even 20%, companies would not move to other countries, at least for the most part, because when you add in communication and transportation costs, you're going to have very similar costs. But when costs are 70 and 80% difference, when wage costs in Mexico are so much different than the United States, then it's an impetus to do something. For that reason, costs have to at least be in line, and that's something that employees can control. The second is that you have to bring regulation and tax costs in line. Very similar to wage costs, countries are moving overseas because it's just easier, not just cheaper, but it's easier to produce something in other countries than the United States. Costs for production and manufacturing are so out of line in the United States in relation to government expectations that when you go to other countries like Mexico and China, those are such a small part of costs. Doesn't mean it's right, doesn't mean these costs shouldn't be expected. But when you look at the bottom line, and it's so much cheaper to produce because of lower regulation and taxes in other countries than in the United States, that is certainly an incentive to move operations otherwise. Here's just one example. States often battle other states to figure out ways that they can give tax credits and erase regulations so that a company can produce in one state versus the other. That trend also occurs in other countries. So we have to make sure that our costs in relation to tax and regulations in this country are at least close to other countries. Third is that it's harder to compete on price, we have to compete on quality. We have to figure out a way to offer better quality in the United States than you could ever get in other countries. How do we do that? Usually by labor and management participation. Labor, employees, have to be much more involved in the creation of a product and also in the production of that product. They have to continually think of ways to make the product better, to make it cheaper, not just in wages, but in the processes. When employees add more value to the process, employees are more valuable. And the United States has a tremendous reservoir of employees with higher skills and knowledge in other countries. We have to put that skills and knowledge to work. And we do that by creating, within the processes, ways that you can reduce costs and produce a higher quality product. And lastly, is that employees are more committed and attentive in higher wage processes higher wage countries than lower wage countries. They have no strikes, lower sick leave usage, and then also the good labor and management cooperation that you can't get in other countries. When you can be more dependable in one country than another, then that is something that's valuable. It translates into higher revenues. So those are the instances that we look for in how to battling outsourcing. Bring production costs in line, bring regulations and taxes in line, produce a higher quality product, and employees being more attentive to the organization than other countries. This won't prevent outsourcing, but it would definitely slow its trend. And that can be only beneficial to millions of us who need those jobs and a country who needs those revenues. Thanks, everybody.